both 15s and 7s, a wealth of experience. You've got Sebastião de Cunha there, one of 11 brothers, 10 of whom have played for Portugal. You've got the twins, Diogo Matthews and his twin David on the bench. Pedro Leal's the captain and the playmaker, but the guy I think has really made his mark, has been quite outstanding, and a late replacement only for the side is Joseph Gardner. Can they lift it to that earlier level again? We shall see. South Africa, well, they stick with the same starting lineup as the Cup quarter-final when they went down in extra time. They've been absolutely superb, and it must hit them quite hard that they are not in the semi-final. Kyle Brown has led them so well. They've been brilliant with South Africa, outstanding again. Champions last time out in Las Vegas, but again they've been denied the chance of winning the Hong Kong title for the first time ever. And well, on form, past form, you'd say South Africa would soundly beat them, Keith, but nothing sure in this tournament this year, is there?
Well, there isn't. There's the Portuguese team that came out and beat France, then lost narrowly to New Zealand 19-12, and here they are, very good, solid, competent, at times brilliant unit. But Nigel, honestly, concerning the South African team and they're playing that the quarter-final of the Cup, I tell you what, if you suddenly said to me after that game, that's it, the tournament's over, that was good enough to be a final, I'd have gone home happy. It was a wonderful, wonderful game.
Wasn't it just? It had all the elements, all the ingredients, even some innovation by South Africa, which was exciting to watch, wasn't it?
The long line-out, the seven-man line-out.
Seven-man line-out and the driving maul. Referee, well, you'll know this man, Nick Bryant from New Zealand.
Yeah, a young man from Tauranga who was a good player, but injury, like so many times, forced him into refereeing, and now he's reaping the rewards for his commitment.
They're in pairs here to challenge from the start. Pedro Leal then lifts it just over the 10-metre line. Is there a knock-on? If so, is advantage South Africa. Anyway, Sitoli to Branco de Pria. Another of those with the psychedelic boots and so light on his feet. And Sitoli, who's really stepped up in his first season, only his third tournament. Here he goes on the break. Sibusiso Sitoli, been impressed with him. And Paul True, the coach, bringing in new players very successfully. Injury to Paul Jordan, by the way, in case you're wondering why he's not starting these days. Got a nasty bang on the thigh yesterday, and so he's sitting out at the moment. But Branco du Preez is doing a good job. So is this man, Chris Dry, together with his captain Kyle Brown. Sitoli. There's South Africa. Well, he can produce magic. He's on his own here, but he's found a cross kick to Chris Dry, who's there for the catch and taken the try. Brilliant. And that's some of the skills that I've enjoyed so much about this Springbok squad.
Nigel, South Africa is just amazing. By his performance here, he's elevating himself into some of the all-time greats seen here on this famous field. Here, look at him. He's a great tackler. He's a wonderful try scorer and try maker. And this is a different string to his bow. The little push ahead and the very kind bounce, and it's a try for this guy, Chris Dry. Well, when you think of those guys like let me see, Serevi and Christian Cullen and Joe Nalomu that began on this ground, this guy is rapidly climbing into that kind of category.
He's just slotted the goal. Absolutely extraordinary. So there we have it. South Africa 7-0. Terrific start, and picking up really where they left off. So they still want to stay in the hunt in the overall battle. They're fifth at the start of this tournament, but they're still not out of touch. And here he is to restart. South Africa. And he might be one of those players. We're involved in picking the player of the tournament, and it might be exceptional to have a player who's not in the final, but on this form, I mean, here he goes again. South Africa, Sitoli. They look so sharp and clearly are exceedingly fit. They're well trained indeed by Paul True. Full-time, of course, these days. Right on the line here. Pressure on Portugal. And the try is given, and it's the captain who's been such an example to his squad, Kyle Brown.
Very nicely taken try indeed by Brown. I agree with you, Nigel. Had a quite a severe cut on his head. Went off the field yesterday. That's the tape reason for the tape. But yes, again, when you saw the Springboks line up against the Fijians, as I hark back to that quarter-final in the Cup earlier today, the Fijians were much bigger, much more powerful. They had more weight. And yet guys like Kyle Brown, who's a forward, and Africa and Dupree, the backs, look, they're slimly built. There's Cecil Africa.
And look at the drop goal. He can do no wrong. I remember that second round game, was it against Hong Kong, who were no mean side, and I thought the first half of that game was almost perfection, and the only mistake they made was actually they missed a conversion.
Yes, but this guy number 10, he takes me back to Zwandile Stick, who played so beautifully for South Africa at Sevens Rugby. And now we've got Cecil Africa, who's doing just the same, maybe a little bit more in his play.
A 22-year-old, he is just not long out of the Springbok under-20s side. That was where he sort of made his name, and was quickly picked up by Paul True, and has become a real specialist here in the Sevens game. So far, Portugal just cannot get hands on the ball. Got to let go. After you're held, you can be held upright as well as on the ground, of course. So Portugal have got to sort of gird their loins a little here. They're against an outstanding team. So this is little popcorn, they call him, Pedro Leal, playing now in his 27th tournament. They've got a lot of experience in this side. Don't underestimate them. That game against New Zealand will have given them, even though they lost, tremendous confidence. This is Federico Oliveira, but breakdown. It was Delport, I think, who acted as the link there. Kyle Brown, Africa, looking and dancing away as well. Look at this acceleration, and he's going for the corner, and he's going to make it. Not quite, I think. I think there'll be a little refereeing decision here with the touch judge. I have a feeling he may have gone over the side here at the corner. Corner flag is irrelevant. I think that's a little nod of a touch. Oh. Can't quite hear. Oh no, he didn't. It's okay. Well, he's done it again and given South Africa a nice buffer here. Let's watch.
Yes, it's all about the dive in the sideline, but forget about the corner flag. Yes, he was in the air. His body might have swung out over the side, but it didn't touch the grass. So it's a gnat's whisker, as we say, but he got it down. Do you like that, Nigel? Gnat's whisker?
Yeah. It's Northern Hemisphere as well as Southern, Keith.
Okay.
That was brilliant. Again, the skills, the awareness of his position and what he could do. Oh, I tell you what, this is a tour de force, isn't it?
Well, Nigel, we can reveal, and you've already mentioned that we are two of the three-man voting panel that decides the player of the tournament. It's a secret vote, and the wonders of democracy will prevail. The majesty of democracy will prevail. But I think I can tell you where my vote's going. Say no more.
Well, we won't say no more. Bob Lloyd, the third man, the former England centre three-quarter, who's always lived since his rugby days finished at Harlequins in England and played for England brilliantly. He has also, well, he's the chairman of the panel. So, where are we now? 21-0, 20 seconds, and Paul True, well, obviously the bitter disappointment. I know after their great performance in Las Vegas, he had, you know, his ambitions was to win this in the World Series at Hong Kong, the blue ribbon of the event for the very first time. But taking the plate is no mean achievement either. This is the semi-final, mind you, and they'll still have Australia or Russia to play if they stay ahead. But Portugal may come back, who knows. Pedro Leal, that's the final player of the first half. Joe Gardner, who's done well in this tournament. Gonzalo Foro and Matthews, that's the I nearly fell into the mistake of saying the elder brother, the twins. Kicked on by Branco de Pria. Covering is Gardner. Branco de Prier Gardner there first. So a great first half by South Africa, and without doubt, well, dominating in every aspect and leading appropriately 21 points to 0. And I think everyone was really touched by that gesture.
And he's a very enthusiastic supporter of the team. I think he's billing as assistant coach or something like that. And he's jumps up and down. He's in the team talks, as you saw then. He's a very welcome addition, I'm sure, to Paul True and the plans for South Africa.
So anxious faces of Portugal, and Cecil Africa, born in Port Elizabeth, went to the Henty Cilliers School in Virginia, scored 17 tries to make his impact on this season in his first 1.5 tournaments. I say 1.5 because in George he broke his jaw very badly. We didn't expect him back, maybe perhaps even for, you know, until maybe May, June in the series. But he made a very speedy recovery, came back to Las Vegas and helped them and inspired them to that tremendous achievement of winning the Cup. So with a game and a half to go, he's notched up the 10th highest points total in the tournament and the 3rd ever highest in Hong Kong. That's the stats of his achievement, but it goes just beyond the tally of points. It's the, again, I keep using the word inspiration, but that's what I think he seems to be, because the players around him are all lifted by his superb performance. Still in control, South Africa, with 3 converted tries. Strong across the board. They've got very good 5 men on the bench. But at the moment, they're not in need. Sitoli sets it up. He's made an impact too, a former Sharks player who's another to have been picked up by Paul True out of the under-20s of the Springboks. A chance for Portugal. Pedro Leal changes the tactic, puts in the cross kick, but there's the risk. It went too far for Diogo Matheus. Neil Powell's come on as a early replacement, former captain of the side, and well, he knows the game inside out. This is his 28th tournament, so they've got a very good mix, really. Deliberately, Paul True's been bringing in youngsters to get some experience.
The other thing I like about Cecil Africa, not giving away too many personal secrets here, Nigel, Cecil has a bit of a stammer when he speaks, but he fronted up to an interview at our last tournament stop in Las Vegas, and he gave us a wonderful insight into himself as a very gentle and generous person too. So he's got everything going for him at the moment, this young guy, and I'm just so impressed. And I repeat that, I think he's elevated himself into one of the greats of the game here.
Well, he's got to scurry back now because Portugal on the attack with Gonçalo Foro. Here he is, the big, tall number 11, handing off for Cecil Africa that time into the hands of Diogo Miranda. Poor pass, slows down the attack. Da Cunha, the one with all the rugby-playing brothers. And this is a deserving score for Portugal, their first of this plate semi-final. Sebastião da Cunha, the captain of the side, who's been a good servant in 15s as well as in 7s to his country, and that's his second try of the tournament.
And the points tally continues to build for Africa as he watched this one. Nicely taken by Da Cunha. Got around Powell there. These guys are very fine players. these Portuguese. They got 2 excellent tries by Gonzalo Foro against New Zealand. And here they are scoring against South Africa. So they're on the rise too, on the brink of breaking into the big time.
Well, that is the excitement, isn't it? That, you know, unlike, I'm afraid, the 15s game, we're not getting these kind of breakthroughs. But to see Russia and Portugal in a cup quarter-final involving all the best sevens playing nations in the world is, you know, exciting for everyone. And it just increases the likely outcomes of different kinds. You can't honestly see either of those two being in a cup quarter-final in a 15-a-side tournament on the world scale. Only the 3rd cup quarter-final for Portugal, but the very first for Russia, and we'll be seeing them next up. Well, Keith, I mean, I agree entirely with everything you said about South Africa. And I mentioned that, you know, his 3rd highest ever point score already in this tournament ever in a Hong Kong tournament, 75 points, with only Brent Russell 89 points, the South African, and William Ryder, the little genius from Fiji, with 80 points, have scored more than him in a Hong Kong event. He might yet get more. There's still another game and what's left of this one for him to participate in, unless Portugal turn the tables here. 21-5 it is, and down to the last 2 minutes. So South Africa just took a bit of a knock there, by the way, but he's running well again. Breaking away this time, Neil Powell. They'll not stop him, and that's the clincher.
No problems at all. This is a nice run by Boom Prinsloo. Defence came across and rode him down there. Nice work by Diego Miranda, and then away went Powell to score it. Interesting to hear the name of Brent Russell mentioned there before. If Brent Russell's watching this in South Africa, we remember him as a great little blonde sevens rugby player. There's a lovely kick by none other than Cecil Africa. And it's interesting that when Gordon Titchens, the great New Zealand coach, was asked for his all-time world squad of 12 players to play in his imaginary game against the best of Mars, the Moon, Jupiter, with all their speed, he chose Brent Russell in his 12. So that's how he regards the man we've just been talking about.
Well, having lauded Cecil Africa, just to tell you that he's actually, I think, being rested now. With the game certain to be South Africa's, Paul True has taken him off just to make sure he doesn't get a further knock. He took a little bit of a knock, but he's okay. And thinking of Paul True and Neil Powell, I mean, one of the fascinating things is Paul True's not long out of the game as a player himself, because unfortunately Carl Murray knocks on for Portugal. Neil Powell and Paul True actually played for South Africa in the sevens together, and Paul True scored 70 tries. He knows this game by the back of his hand, and captained South Africa very successfully, and now has brought them right through, not from oblivion of course, but to the highest level that we have seen last time in Las Vegas and here in Hong Kong. We're down to the last couple of seconds. We've got a little bit of a stoppage here for injury, and the crowd have really enjoyed so much of this tournament. And while we're waiting for a little bit of attention here, Keith, it is to me this uncertainty now that every tournament we go to, there's absolutely no way of knowing who is even going to get into the last 4.
Well, exactly right. And if I go back and quote Titchens again, Coach Titchens, he says 6 teams could win every time we have a sevens tournament. 6 teams are prospected to win, and that's reflected in the fact there's been, what, 3 winners so far in their 4 tournaments. We've been played, 3 countries have won tournaments, and could be another new country winning for this season here today.
Indeed, yes. Branco de Pria knows and was waiting for the hooter. Just skip backwards a few feet and then put the ball into touch. And there, Cecil Africa, and the courtesies that remain in this game. Every player shakes hands not only with his teammates, but with the opposition as well. As Poultry will say another good job done, and a little bit of compensation, more than a little, for the disappointment of losing in the cup.